What is up, alien army? I am Oculus, the alien next door, and on this channel we discuss everything esoteric. And today's esoteric chit chat, we're going to be talking about Lilith, both the legend of Lilith, and we're going to get into the astrology of Lilith. So let's get started. So let's get into Lilith. So first we're going to get a little bit of the backstory of Lilith, who is commonly known today as a demon, and then we're going to get into the astrological meaning of Lilith, which basically means dark moon or black moon. So Lilith is known throughout many different cultures, ranging back thousands and thousands of years. She is known in ancient Sumeria, she is known in ancient Babylon, she is known in Jewish folklore, she is known in Wiccan and pagan beliefs, and she kind of has a reputation of being a demon. And the word Lilith actually means, loosely, from the ancient Sumerian texts, a female demon. So that started up pretty early with her. Now, why did she get this reputation of being a female demon who is a danger to pregnant women and children? So she is allegedly Adam's first wife. I'm pretty sure a lot of you are familiar with the story of Adam and Eve. And before Eve came along into the picture was Lilith. And Lilith was created as an equal to Adam, only she was a female and Adam was a male. So she was his exact equal, whereas Eve is Adam's counterpart. So they're not exactly even, they kind of complement one another, whereas Lilith and Adam, they were very similar, okay, aside from obviously, you know, one is a masculine and one is a feminine. So Lilith was Adam's first wife, and she would not be a subordinate or subservient to Adam. She wanted to be his equal. She asserted her authority, she asserted her power. She was basically banned from the Garden of Eden because of this, and she became very enraged, and you know, she wanted to be back there, and obviously she was upset about that because, you know, she's been banished from the Garden of Eden. So because of this, she turned into a demon who would prey on young children and pregnant women. Now, from an astrological point of view, Lilith does not mean that, okay? There's, you know, a parallel to it, but astrologically, Lilith is actually a mathematical point in space which pulls on the moon. So Lilith in astrology is associated with the moon sign, and because Lilith is known as a female demon, of course she's going to be associated with the moon and that whole type of subconscious, that emotional realm. But instead of being the characteristics of one's moon sign, she is going to be the dark moon, like the unconscious desires and what really drives the emotions of that moon sign. So in astrology, Lilith is also associated with Pluto, because, you know, Pluto, if you're familiar with astrology, just exudes that power and that sex appeal. And as we discussed just a moment ago, she was exerting her power over Adam, and it was a very masculine way, but because she was a female exerting her power in that way, that's why she was banished. So from an astrological standpoint, she does still represent the feminine, but a more unabridged version of the feminine, and this can go for any gender that you identify with. You don't have to be a female or a male, because everyone essentially has masculine energy and feminine energy within them. So this is going to be for the darker side of the feminine energy, the darker side of your moon sign. So your Lilith sign might not be the same sign as your moon. I mean, it can be, but it oftentimes isn't. So this is sort of the female version of Mars, okay, because Mars is a very masculine planet, and this exudes masculine and assertive energy. Lilith is assertive, but with a feminine twist to it. And with feminine energy, again, regardless of any type of gender that you identify with, feminine energy as a whole, just as an energy, is more receptive, whereas masculine energy is assertive and it's pushing its way forward, whereas feminine energy is receiving and absorbing. So this is, it's kind of a contradiction, okay? The black moon of Lilith is sort of a contradiction because it's supposed to be receptive, but yet it isn't, it's assertive. So we are going to get into what the Lilith sign means for each of you, but first I do want to say that the moon, your moon sign, is, you should, I'm not going to say you have to, but I mean, if you are interested in it, you definitely should see how your moon sign correlates to your Lilith sign, because a lot of times when you feel that you're not behaving in the manner of which your moon sign would suggest, then that can be the darker, the shadow side coming out to play, okay? So a lot of times the Lilith is our emotions that we haven't fully tapped into, that are still kind of unconscious and hidden even to us. So whereas the moon sign would be more related to an Eve type of femininity, where it's receptive and flowing and you kind of just, that's what you know of your emotions. Like it's like your standard emotions. Lilith is the moon, which is hidden in your deepest realms of emotions. So this is kind of the driving force of your moon sign. So I like to look at it as the two of them working hand in hand. And again, this does not matter what gender you identify as. This is emotions, which is receptive energy, and everyone has a feminine and a masculine. So Lilith in Aries. Now the dark moon in Aries, this is someone who might not be aware that they have a lot of anger issues. They might be very sexually promiscuous. They might be in warrior mode, kind of always on the hunt, on the prowl. That is a strong characteristic of a Lilith in Aries. So we're looking at the unexpressed traits of your emotions. So if you have your moon in a more passive sign and you have a Lilith in Aries, you might actually see in your personality how the two corresponds with each other. You might wonder where sometimes you might have a fit of rage, or a burst of anger out of nowhere, and you're like, wait, but that doesn't even sound like me. It might be a trait that your unconscious is expressing that you might not be aware of. Now the Lilith in Taurus is someone who gets off on guilty pleasures. They're very, very, very indulgent in things that they like. There's a tendency for a maximum overdrive, okay? So they like a lot of luxurious things. They like money. They like material wealth. They like material success. It's sort of, another thing I should say is Lilith is sort of a perversion of the traits of that sign. So think about what the sign of Taurus represents, security, physical security, an accumulation of wealth, and, the wanting to live in the lap of luxury and experience the finer things. Lilith in this will kind of make it a little bit perverse, like your emotions, like you might feel some sort of way about that you don't want to share with anyone else. Now, Lilith in Gemini is someone who's into the mind and dirty talking, and they are someone who might pervert the traits of Gemini, which can result in, being manipulative, being slanderous. This is someone who is into very kinky talk. They might be into a lot of phone sex or something of that nature, something where they have to use their mind to kind of use their mind and their cunning to kind of play cat and mouse with their prize. They are someone who might be into polygamy, or someone who just wants to have multiple things going on at once and not really affiliate one with the other. They are someone who can be a little bit tricky to maneuver to see how they feel about you, because they're always kind of in that quick Mercury mode, like now you see me, now you don't. Like that is a big characteristic of what someone with a Lilith in Gemini would potentially do. Someone with Lilith in Cancer is someone who wants to be very dominating and nurturing, but sort of perverts that. I don't know how many times I say the word perversion or pervert, so just get ready for it. So there's someone who is taking the traits of Cancer, and they are really wanting to dominate that field. Like they will want to be your only caretaker. They will want to be the only one in your home. They will want to be the only one who is emotionally supportive of you, okay? They are not looking to compete with anyone. They want to know that they have you, like this, you know what I mean? Like they want to know that they have you. They can be overly nurturing to the point of being smothering. They will want you all to themselves. They will be all up on you. They may or may not be loyal to you, but they are someone who wants that total devotion, wants to know that anything that you need, you get it from them. You don't get it anywhere else. Like they are the ultimate caretaker and caregiver for you. Lilith in Leo is someone who can come off as very vain and narcissistic in the realm of emotions. They can be sort of an egomaniac. They will thrive off of attention. They are someone who really, really likes having an audience around, okay? Like they might do some next shit, like some outrageous action, or say something outrageous just for that attention. Whether or not they mean it or whether or not they follow through is another story, but their emotions really get fed off of how other people are viewing them and perceiving them. Not that they care what the other person thinks of them, because this is the type of person, Lilith and Leo, who they're not going to care what that person is saying about them or thinking about them, as long as they are talking about them and thinking about them. So it can be good, it can be bad, as long as they have attention. They don't care what kind it is. Lilith in Virgo is someone who kind of pretends to be innocent. They might be up to something, but you probably will never know. They are someone who's going to cover their tracks. They are someone who is frigid. They are someone who's very analytical. They are not someone who's highly emotional. They're more cold in that way. They're more reserved. They are into having you believe that they are the epitome of innocence and that they can do no wrong, and that they are your angel. And that may be so, but it also may not be so. So these are someone that wants to have you view them in the best light no matter what. And again, because Virgo is a mercurial sign, this can result in, manipulating their words or their text messages or the way that they say things just so they can appear innocent when they might not really be. They're someone who is into naughty things. They are very into like role play and things of that nature, where they're kind of the innocent person, and their innermost emotion that they really desire is someone corrupting them, but meanwhile they're actually the ones that are corrupting the other person. It's kind of like a mind fuck type of deal. Now, Lilith in Libra is someone who's very charming. They are very adept at maneuvering a social scene. They are someone who actually enjoys when people think highly of them. Someone with Lilith in Libra is, they can be a bit of a player, okay? They can have that mentality. They can enjoy juggling two or more things at once, very similar to the Lilith in Gemini. Their emotions will be fed by doing that little, oh, well, here's this for today, here's that for tomorrow. Their emotions are kind of getting amplified by knowing that they have two things going on at once, okay? Because they're the sign of balance, so they might be someone who is accurately able to maintain two separate relationships or lead a double life harmoniously, and they're okay with that. You might not have any idea about this. They're someone who can be manipulatively charming just because they want their own way, and they kind of view others as a game to them, because Libra, again, is a sign about others and relations with other people. So a lot of times someone with a Lilith in Libra can view the other person as a plaything or a toy. So whatever it is, whether you're a friend, a coworker, a family member in a relationship with them, you might be viewed as a toy, okay? You might not be viewed as an actual individual that has your own feelings, because they're so into their feeling of, yes, now I said this and I get to play with this toy today, and now I can say that and I get to play with that toy tomorrow, or something along those lines. Lilith in Scorpio. So Scorpio actually is very home to Lilith, because Lilith is also affiliated with Pluto. So we have someone here who can be very sadistic emotionally. We can have someone who is very interested in the dark arts or black magic, things like that. We can have someone who is a sex addict. We can have someone who enjoys very, very taboo things and kind of pushing your buttons just for the fun of it. They are someone who their emotions are really getting off on that intensity and that darkness and that foreboding. Like they like being on the darker side. It feels emotionally fulfilling for them. They're not someone who really takes emotions very lightly. They can pervert their emotions in the sense of being very, very sadistic and carrying out cruelty, even if it's only just, emotional cruelty. Like they might have a feeling of power over that. It's a sign very associated with power, so they will want to feel like they possess you. They will want to feel like they have emotional power over you. They want to steal your soul, for lack of a better term. They're someone that is very into what they're into in the moment, and they are not considering any type of ramifications aside from what they want right then emotionally, because their emotions are so strong that a lot of times that Lilith sign in Scorpio, the dark moon, may take over and override something else and overpower their better judgment. Lilith in Sagittarius is the type of person who is insatiable. They are reckless. They always want more. Remember, this is ruled by Jupiter Sagittarius. With Lilith, they want more. Their emotions want more. They don't want to be tied down. They want to know that they can do whatever they want whenever they want. They don't want to be emotionally bound to anyone. They want to know that they have the freedom to do whatever they want whenever they want. They can be very preachy. They can be someone who is kind of like a false prophet. They can just preach their agenda and be so convincing that someone else would have no idea that they've actually been manipulated. They are someone who likes to brag about themselves. They are very boastful. They tend to think very highly of themselves, especially emotionally. They are someone who does not want to follow your rules. They kind of just want to go off and do their own thing and then come back to you when they feel like it. They are not someone who is going to enjoy being heavily committed. They are someone who is always wanting to squeeze the most out of every situation until they're over it and they're done. And because this is a mutable sign, a lot of times they will like to tend to multiple emotional affairs at once, and then kind of view it as oh, well, this is fun, you know, like what else can I say to them to get them to, you know, like they're getting off kind of on that attention, because again, it is a fire sign, so they do like that attention. But emotionally, when they're able to kind of have you conform to their belief system, that is what really gets their juices going. Someone with Lilith in Capricorn is going to be very emotionally turned on by power, by wealth, by material things. This is someone who likes to have a lot of money. This is someone who likes to have a high social status. This is someone that really enjoys being recognized for their achievements. Even if they are someone who swindled someone else and now they have a whole bunch of money, they are still very proud of that, because they'll make it seem like they never swindled anyone. They can come off as very manipulative. They can come off as very cold and uncaring about others. They are someone who can be a bit of a tyrant in their emotional realm, so it's not really going to matter what the other person's emotions are. They are someone who just sees it as my way or the highway, and no emotions, I'm not dealing with that, you know, because this is the sign of Capricorn. It's an earth sign. It's very logical. Emotions are not going to play a big part with this. Also, like the Scorpio Lilith, Capricorn Lilith can have a bit of a liking for sadistic acts and things like that. They can kind of, you know, get motivated by that, by knowing that they have power over someone else. They can be very calculated. They can be very conniving. They can observe situations and not participate in it, but yet take down mental notes to use against you later. They can be someone who is fulfilled emotionally by having other people view them as powerful and almighty, and you know, sort of like that dictator or god complex type of deal going on. Lilith in Aquarius is someone who is very emotionally rebellious. They might up and walk away from a relationship or situation or whatnot just to stir things up a bit. There might not be any rhyme or reason to it. They just felt like it. Yeah, I'm gonna do this now. Oh, okay, you know, and that's it. That poof, they're gone with the wind, right? So they can be very disruptive emotionally. They can sometimes have an outburst over something that isn't even going on, but is stored in their psyche, and it's coming out of nowhere. This is very common for Lilith in Aquarius. They can be very sexually cold and not wanting to form an intimate bond with someone. They can just view sex as sort of a robotic act. They can view relationships as robotic acts. I see someone with Lilith in Aquarius as someone who would be very into enjoying the company of a sex robot. I know that sounds really weird, but that just came to mind because they're so just not focused on the emotional intimacy of it that they can just view another ascension being as a robot. So essentially, you know, it'd be kind of like the same thing, and they're okay with that. They are very experimental. They can want to try everything once just to say that they've tried it. It doesn't matter. They like that newness of things, that novelty of the experience. They are someone who is not going to follow what anyone else says with their emotions. They are likely going to be the individual who everyone expects them to feel a certain way about something, but they not only feel the opposite about it, they feel the opposite twisted at like a 47-degree angle, and you're like, wait, what? You felt that way about that? And it's just very rare for them to be emotionally in sync with the masses, okay? Lilith in Pisces is someone who can have a tendency for escapism, for drug or alcohol abuse. They are someone who can be seen as sort of like a madman, in that sense, because they're so not in tune with everyone else's reality. They're sort of emotionally doing their own thing, and because of that, others might view them as reckless or with their head in the clouds or something of that nature. They can be very deceptive. Remember, this is ruled by Neptune, so Neptune is Lord of Illusions, and you might not know what you're going to get with someone that has Lilith in Pisces, because they are essentially perverting the traits of Neptune and manipulating it so that they appear a certain way to you and that they appear to feel a certain way about you, but that's not the case at all. They can be someone who is not entirely invested in their physical reality. They are someone who is plotting and planning and, wants to make their mark on the world in a different manner. Sometimes they are very impulsive with their emotions. They're someone who is likely to just pull the trigger without thinking, whether it's, saying something, doing something, whatever it is. They'll just feel like it and then, okay, yeah, I did that, now I'm over it. And they will not care about any ramifications or consequences of their actions. They genuinely will not care about that, because they're so in their emotions, lost in their head, that it's very easy for them to escape reality. So there's a lot of that sort of escapism going on there. So someone with Lilith in Pisces, you might not entirely know how they feel about you, okay? Because they can tell you something and you could really believe it to be true, and then find out years later that nothing was real at all. So that is basically a short breakdown for the Lilith signs. Now, I know a lot of these came off as something to be mindful of, that they're kind of the darker traits of it. Of course, there are positive traits to every sign. These are just because, again, Lilith is the perversion of the traits of the sign. This is something that might be unconsciously going on within your emotions that you're not aware of. And if you feel like you are fully emotionally balanced and then something happens and you're like, wait, well, why did I react that way? Definitely take a look at your Lilith sign, because this is where it's sort of bubbling over and you're not yet aware of it. But once you are aware of your Lilith placement, you can sort of tweak things to, they can still be a little bit perverted, because that's what this whole concept of Lilith is about. It's about pushing boundaries, pushing emotional boundaries. So you can tweak that any which way you want to, so it's not as a dark and gloomy type of deal going on for you. But typically Lilith is best looked at in correspondence to your moon sign, because one is the illuminated moon and one is the dark side of the moon. So again, with emotions, a lot of times we sort of bury our unconscious emotions like deep down, to the point where we have no clue that those things are even going on. So if something happens out of character and you react emotionally and it's really just not something that you consider in your nature to do, definitely take a look at the traits of your Lilith sign and utilize them to gain power, not to have them rule over you with an unconscious outburst. Make Lilith work for you instead of taking you over whenever it wants to, okay? So that is it for this esoteric chit chat talking about Lilith in astrology. I hope that you got some information out of this, and that is it for today's chit chat. I'm Oculus, the alien next door. Peace, good vibes, and namaste. Stay blessed, because you are.